Ego Action Heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com, and it is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. It is January 26, 2021, and I think last time I was eating a homemade sugar-free cheesecake, and today I am having homemade sugar-free ice cream. This is strawberry and blueberry with chocolate chips. Man, that's good. What are you all eating? You can tell me. I won't tell anybody. Okay, I'll tell everybody. We do have some questions that have already come in, and post ice cream, I will start with those. But if you have any questions at all about CX, UX, research, information architecture, interaction design, careers, portfolios, resumes, problems at work, please ask them. You can ask them in the LinkedIn chat, in the YouTube chat, or you can use the deltacx.link/AMA, or if you want to be super cool, we've got a new one, deltacx.link/ask. So, while we wait for everybody to join, hello, Avraham, you're having falafel. Good choice. All right, so let me just get my comment system ready for action, and then I'll start. Hello, Cannonball. I see a period. That's all I see. Hello. All right. Oh, I meant to start my clock. I forgot to do that. All right. Oh, well. All right. Next time. All right. First question. I knew it wouldn't be the same without Ikening. Hello, Ikening. And hello, fellow low ego action heroes. If I'm covered in ice cream, please tell me. All right. First question was a little bit more of a comment, but it was fun to get. And it says, I find it interesting when a job application process is difficult, but it's especially ironic when it's for a UX job. Thoughts? Many thoughts. I have to tell you, I am at the point where if I see Workday, I don't even want to apply for the job. So many of these systems are so terrible. I even have an entire presentation about it. I haven't done it on this channel yet, but I did do it at an HR conference last year, and I'm hoping to do it at more HR conferences. And of course, now I'm writing a huge HR recruiter training. So yes, I will certainly be tackling the candidate and application experience, but yeah, it is ironic, but I also know why it happens. Nobody at companies is trying their own system, and that's really what it comes down to. They've got this system, somebody set it up, nobody looked at it, the end. Mumtaz is asking a question that I will answer later, but I'm not sure I understand it. Can you maybe rephrase that question? Say it another way so I can make sure I'm answering the right thing, and then your question will be after the other ones that came in ahead of time. The next question, so thoughts? Nothing we can do about it unless you want to be like me and kind of refuse to apply when a system is so bad that you don't think you're going to make it through the system. Next question. I've done a small online UI UX course, but as you state, those are just the building blocks. We all know about building blocks. Where would you suggest is the best place to learn UX theory and psychology? I have been trying to find some courses that I can recommend, and I have not found any yet that I love. Next, I'm going to try to look through some LinkedIn learning courses to see if I like any of those. But I would say, unfortunately, right now, I've not yet fallen in love with any courses, which means I'm not really comfortable recommending any particular ones. I'm not saying every course out there is bad. I haven't tried most of these. But I'm always concerned that people are either learning garbage or they're learning things at a very surface level. So I'll have to get back to you. Of course, if I find great courses, I will let everybody know, but I haven't totally found that yet. So don't forget that you can ask your questions in the chat room or anonymously at deltacx.link/AMA or our new question system, deltacx.link/ask. And I will try to watch my emails. Whoa! Oh, Oz, you're the sweetest. Thank you, Oz. Oz just gave us a $5 super chat. Thank you, Oz. I wanted to announce to everybody that I have decided to buy a computer just for the streaming and my video editing, because after yesterday's crashes, I think I might need to upgrade. So from now on, instead of going towards cheese, all donations will go towards the new computer system, though we thank you for the cheese we bought this month. It was really great. Oz says, you should do a session on living on the edges of society and skipping all of this interviewing and rat race humiliation. How does one live with dignity on the fringes? I don't even know how to answer that. I can make that the next question, but and then answer the other question. I don't even know where to start with that, because I don't know how to get a job without some sort of interview. When I lived in San Francisco, I was pretty in demand for local jobs, and it was getting to the point where I could get a job almost without an interview because my reputation was known in the area. But outside of that, I don't know how you skip the crap and bullshit of interviews. I really don't know. If we can come up with that, let me know. But I think that there's still something to be said for talking to people and getting to know them. But I think most interview questions are stupid. So I wonder if Oz's question or comment is more about changing the way we interview, that maybe interviews still kind of have to happen, but we have to stop asking stupid, meaningless questions, or if Oz is saying no more interviews. So Oz, you tell us. And hello, Shannon. Great show yesterday, though, again, with my technical adventures. Okay, so we do have a question from Mumtaz that it makes more sense to me now. Thank you for that. I will answer the last question that came in anonymously, and then we'll jump over to Mumtaz. And I will keep checking for new questions. So a question that came in anonymously during the week, because these links work all week long, and then you'll be the first questions to be answered. And of course, this is always archived. If you miss it live, you can catch it in the Office Hours playlist on YouTube. It's hard to find later on LinkedIn. The question was, do you offer private mentorship to budding UXers? If so, what's your setup for that? Yeah, let me put a link on the screen. Let me type this out. So the way that I do that is I will put up a link on the screen and I will read it out loud. And I am typing everything wrong while talking. And basically, you can get your first coaching session with me for free. It will be a short session, so you can go to deltacx.link/coaching. That will dump you into my online calendar. And you can choose the free 15-minute coaching. I usually give people a little bit more than 15 minutes, but that will give us a chance to talk a little bit about what your goals are for mentorship or coaching and where you're trying to go and how far you've come, and see if we feel like we're a match and if you want to continue and what we can do together. After that, you would use the same link to book the paid coaching. Currently, I'm charging a discounted rate for up-and-coming UXers. That is $50 American a half hour, and you can book time as you need it whenever you want it. There's no minimum, there's no maximum, so it's really up to you. So I would say that is the way that I'm approaching that, and I, of course, customize it for each person. So I would say sign up for the free one first, and this is, of course, for everybody, not just the person who asked the question. Sign up for the free one first. Let's talk about what coaching and I might be able to do with you, and then we'll see if we want to go from there. Because if you don't like talking to me, then you don't have to book more time with me. The end. All right, now let's see about the question from Mumtaz on LinkedIn. And the question says, is it necessary to mention a career objective next to your, your photo on your resume? Now, in America, we don't put our photos on our resumes anymore. So if you are in a country or culture where you might have your photo at the top of the resume and you might also have your information, very often under that, people put some sort of career objective, typically stating what type of work they think they can do or hope to do or want to do or where their goal is. And I'm finding more and more that that's going out of style, at least on American resumes. I'm seeing some suggestions that you don't have to include that. I think that if it's important for people to know what your goals are, they could ask you that in an interview. But I feel like that's space that I wish I could buy back and move stuff up on my resume or CV. Because in some cases, even if you have a one-page resume, great. Mine's 2 pages, and I know not everybody makes it to the second page. So if I can move more stuff up, that's great for me. What I've done at the top of my resume instead of career objective is to basically tell you what I can do. And I just have a couple of sentences in a very frank, blunt kind of way, just saying, hey, I am a utility player. People normally bring me in to do strategy, research, information architecture, interaction design, prototyping, testing, or some combination of these. And here's what I'm strong at, and here's where I tend to be best utilized. And hey, I can also do this. And now let's talk about where I've been working. So instead of career objective, I've kind of used it to just kind of punch people in the face with how I tend to fit into companies. Now, I have noticed from things like Workday that very often when my resume gets scanned, that top piece doesn't seem to be kept. So I think some of these automatic resume scanning systems, and I'm no expert at them, I think some of these automatic resume scanning systems are skipping some of those top paragraphs where we blah, blah, blah about our objective, or we blah, blah, blah about I'm a utility player. And so don't be surprised if nobody's read it, because if they're seeing your resume or CV through these resume scanning systems, that scanning system may have eliminated it. So I would say that if you are going to put something like that, you know my mantra, everybody knows my mantra, meaningful, actionable, helpful. Make sure whatever you want to say about yourself is meaningful. Make sure it's actionable, somebody can do something about it, and make sure it's helpful. And maybe these are all the same things said different ways. So that's the way I look at it. My resume and my portfolio are speed dating. It's hopefully just enough where somebody goes, we should talk to her. That's all it has to be. It doesn't have to get me the job. It just has to get me the interview or the screening call. So take a look at your resume or portfolio and start by asking yourself, and then later ask mentors and coaches, is this going to get me that interview? Now, I also do free resume reviews and free portfolio reviews. Everybody gets one, and if you want one after that, I do charge for my time, but I do give you one for free. I'll put that URL up on the screen. I only do them on weekends. And even though my calendar system will invite you to a calendar thing, you are not going to be there. I do these alone, but I put them in my calendar so I don't forget to do them. So let's type out the URL for that. Put it up on the screen. Okay, so that's deltacx.link, and .link is my URL shortener, /portfolio-review. And again, it's going to dump you in my calendar system, and it's going to make you swear that you saw episode 54 about portfolio, if it's for your portfolio do's and don'ts. Please don't check off the box and claim that you watched that video and fixed your portfolio if you didn't. I can tell. So make sure if you're sending me a portfolio that you've watched that video and fixed your stuff first. If this is a resume, okay, check off that box and send me your resume. That video is more about portfolios. But I'm happy to take a look at it. Just remember, very often I am looking at a resume from the perspective of Americans. I don't really know how Turkey or Serbia or France or South Africa would perceive a resume. I can only say, based on my work in America, what we tend to look for and what I think are good and bad. So that's what I would say about that. Thanks a lot. You're welcome a lot. Thank you for dropping by. So I don't have any other questions. I know sometimes it takes us a little bit of time to get cooking on our Tuesdays together. So let me know if you have any other questions. I will be hanging out here for an hour regardless. So Let me know if there's any thoughts or questions, or of course, requests for future episodes or podcasts. I always like to get some feedback on what information people want me to cover so that I can try to find some experts to bring in for everybody. But I'm not seeing any anonymous questions, and I'm not seeing any chat room questions, so we're just all going to have to talk about our snacks. Falafel. Sounds good. We sure had some great falafel in Tel Aviv when we were there. Is it really 2 years ago? A question is coming in. Nobody wants to hear me talk about falafel. That's fine. All right. Thank you to the anonymous question. Let's drop that in my list of questions, which always ends up in the YouTube description, so you know what I answered in what order. I still don't have timestamps. I'm lazy. Sorry about that. But thank you to the person who asked the question. And it says, what do you think about having multiple mentors? For example, finding different mentors with different expertise versus trying to find a mentor who covers a few areas of expertise. I think either one would be fine. I think you can't go wrong getting multiple opinions on something, whether that's opinions on career direction, opinions on your resume or portfolio, opinions on how to do something, multiple people reviewing your work. I think you can't go wrong with that. The only time you can go wrong is when your mentor is not experienced. You know I've mentioned this before, but I think it's really important that if someone is going to be a mentor or coach, they should be an expert in whatever area they're offering to mentor or coach you in. If they've only worked in UX for a couple of years, they can probably mentor or coach you on getting that first job because they've done that. But I think it's sometimes hard for people with limited UX and CX work history to really give you in-depth work reviews or in-depth advice on how to approach a project or something like that. So I would say just match up the mentor to what they are able to provide, and then, work with whoever you can, whether that's a free mentor or a paid coach. I think there's nothing wrong with working with multiple people. I would say, now that I'm thinking about it, the other possible downside of working with multiple people is I know that some people work with multiple people until they hear the feedback they're hoping to hear. So like they might have a portfolio review from me. I might set off my red flag a few times and say, ooh, there's some things in your portfolio that would make me not interview you. These are some things you might want to change. And someone says, no, Deb's a bitch. This is ridiculous. I'm great. Let me go find another mentor and see what they say. And then they find somebody who goes like, oh, hooray, your portfolio is so good. You should really get that first job any minute now. And so I think there's a downside to when someone has multiple mentors only because they're chasing praise or chasing cheerleading. So I think as long as you are working with multiple people just to have lots of angles on a topic or different ideas on things, diverse perspectives, I think that's great. So, just have that self-awareness of what you're looking for and why. So let's see, we've got someone who used the Ask system. Let's see what's coming through there, and we'll paste it in. Oh, I have to log in. I was logged out. Please hold. Your question is very important to me. I need hold music. I keep saying that and I keep forgetting to do it. All right, let's see. Can you please cover passato remoto? It's funny you should say that. I just had my Italian lesson today and I said, are there any tenses I haven't covered? And oh man, that was ugly. So I'm probably not going to cover passato remoto because evidently it's not really used very much in Italian other than in a literary way. And I'm not writing any literature anytime soon, but my boyfriend cracked me up before by joking that there was an Italian verb tense called trapassato distopico, like dystopian verb tense, which I thought was hilarious. Bill is here. Okay, we've got questions for My friend is private messaging me. You read it. I was just joking. I knew it was from you, you weirdo. I haven't been talking to too many people in my life about passato remoto, so, there was just a limited number of people that question could have been from. Let's take Bill's question. Let's take Mumtaz. I'm going to need you to clarify your question. When you say a research question, do you mean when you're talking to customers and users, or do you mean when you're being interviewed and the questions you get? And Shannon says, I hate being labeled a bitch for being honest. Oh yes, I've been labeled all kinds of things for all kinds of things, and it is what it is. Okay, and anonymous question about research methods. I see you. I'm putting you on the list after Bill, and then we'll also get Mumtaz in there when we can get a clarification on that question. So Bill's question says, Yo, Debbie. Yo, Bill. I'm putting a UX process in place for the product team. Within the software development process, there are multiple check-ins in an agile workflow. I'm in the view that before a feature is brought to grooming, tech has already seen it and made their concerns known, so all stakeholders have bought into the feature. So when the feature gets into grooming, the design is locked down. I get the feeling Bill wasn't done typing. Bill? Has anyone found Bill? Bill, is there more to that? Is there a question? I've been seeing the other half of that. I feel like there's something missing from my heart. We will have to see what else Bill has to say, or was it, let me see. I'm going into LinkedIn to see if I missed. No, that's all he said. Bill, what's your question? Okay, I didn't miss it. Let's answer somebody else's question while I get what I think is the rest of Bill's question. So let me reorder these. And we'll come back to that one. Fisayo is here. What's the best way to look for a mentor? I will answer that. Let's get it on the list. And hopefully we'll hear more from Bill, who is in LinkedIn. So he might hear what I'm saying in 3 minutes. And that is my dog crying because my boyfriend walked out the door. Do you agree or disagree? Bill says. All right, let's move Bill's question back up. Do you agree or disagree? All right, so now we're going to have to read Bill's question again because there was a lot to it. And in fact, let me see if I can copy and paste it onto the screen and we can all read it together. Sorry about my crying dog. Okay, let's see if we can. This is a long one, Bill. This is a treatise. I'm trying to fit it all on one screen, and it's going to be microscopico. All right, here we go. The microscopic version. Everybody enjoy. Yikes. Okay. Within the software development process, there are multiple check-ins in an agile workflow. I'm in the view that before a feature is brought into grooming, tech has already seen it and made their concerns known, and all stakeholders have bought into the feature. So when the feature gets into grooming, the design is locked down. Do you think design should be locked down with saying grooming? Okay. So let me talk a little bit about my perspective on agile, and you can see if, where you want to go with this. So first of all, we should be coordinating with people before the project even starts. Sometimes the project is garbage and it shouldn't even start. So let's be checking in before that. Obviously also the feature, we should be determining what is the customer value of it and what are the success criteria and the appropriate KPIs. Because if we don't have that set out, I think a lot of stuff is going to get lost in the longer run. Stakeholders have bought into the feature. I find that stakeholders will happily buy into a feature when they think it's going to achieve business strategies or goals, but they're not always aware of where UX has gone with it. They're not always aware of how it has been researched or designed or tested or presented. So I'm trying to, when you're talking about the design being locked down, and my question would be, how have you been collaborating with other teammates along the way? And collaboration is not designed by committee workshops. When I'm working in this environment, I am normally trying to meet with product and engineering, often separately, at least once a week to say, this is where our stuff is going. With product, I want to make sure that it matches the vision and the stories. And with engineering, I want to make sure that it is feasible and viable, that they can build this and they're not going to claim later, oh, you designed this, we can't build it. Now there's conflict, everybody hates each other. So when we talk about the design being locked down, I just want to make sure we're differentiating between the stakeholders that bought into the feature and everybody is moving forward with the design as the UX practitioner or team has decided upon it. So, Bill, that's the downside of you being on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is sometimes 3 minutes behind me. So it's a little bit more of a conversation on YouTube because I would like to kind of get you involved here and get you talking about this so I can see a little bit more of what you're doing and where your question is. So I've started painting a picture there. Maybe you can fill in a little bit more, and I'll answer another question while we wait for Bill to fill in some more of the blanks about what he's doing or thinking of doing and how that might be different from what I just said. Okay, so quickly for Fizayo's question, what's the best way to look for a UX mentor? We have an entire podcast devoted to that. It's episode 59 about finding a mentor. And in general, I think the best way to find a mentor is just to go up to someone who you admire, whether that's an experienced practitioner, someone at your job, someone on LinkedIn, and just say, I'm looking for mentoring, how can we work? Are you available? How do you, what's your approach to this? But I also tell people, make sure you have a specific goal. If someone just emails me or writes to me and says, hey, Debbie, I need mentoring. Do you mentor? Yes, I mentor. But what do you need? Where are you now and where are you going? Now, we can always have a short call and we can learn that. But I think it looks a little bit better when you come to me and say, here's my story. This is how far I've gotten. This is where I am. This is where I'm trying to go. What can we do together from here? Is there a way that you can help me achieve my goal? So I definitely don't mind when people come to me and just go, oh my gosh, do you mentor? But I think it's better if you have a story and a goal in mind. And then I think you just have to reach out to people who you trust and who you admire. And again, please pick experts. If you're looking for mentoring in UX research or CX architecture, it doesn't make sense to reach out to a really good visual designer. So again, try to match the expertise to what that person can coach you on. Those are some of my suggestions. Let me know if you have a follow-up question to that or if that will help get you in the right direction. Hopefully Bill will reply at some point. And let's see the next question we got that was, I think, an anonymous question. It says, there are so many research methods. How do you choose what's right for your project? When are the most vital times within a project to implement research? Oh, my dog's got a cracker. Hi. Good job. Well, first of all, there's never a bad time for research, but the most vital time to implement research is when you realize there's something you don't know. When you hear people guessing, when you hear people assuming, when you hear people hypothesizing, when you hear people saying, we know the customer, or I know what users want, I've been here 20 years. When you hear that kind of stuff, that to me is the most important time to do research, only because you're in danger of not doing it. Obviously, there are important times to do research when everybody agrees we should do research, and these are vital times as well. But to me, the most holy cats, red flag, make sure research happens time would be when we're in danger of going without it, and we're going to guess and assume and cause our company a lot of risk because of guessing. So that answers the second half of that question. And there's never a bad time to work on research. There's always an opportunity to know more. There's always an opportunity to have more information, updated information. There's never a bad time for research, especially qualitative research. As for research methods, how do you choose what's right for your project? I tend to be more in the qualitative research bucket. So that cuts a lot of methods out right there. I am less likely to be A/B testing. I am less likely to be running a survey. I am less likely to be sending out net promoter scores. I am usually not into quant unless there's something amazing we can do with quant that's going to teach us what we don't know. And then we can spin up the qualitative research to fill in what we don't know. So knowing that I'm working usually, not always, but usually. Oh, Fisayo says, where is episode 59? Yes, I'm sorry, you're on LinkedIn. It's on YouTube. So my YouTube channel is Delta CX. You can go to deltacx.tv and that will redirect you to the YouTube channel. And then go to the playlists and you will see live stream podcast episodes, and they're all in number order. So just kind of scroll through that carousel until you hit 59, or you can probably go to YouTube and search Delta CX Mentoring and see if the video comes up. Let's see. Oh, and Oz agrees. He says a realistic goal is important. I get asked about mentoring someone to master Excel because Oz is the master of Microsoft Excel. Follow him on here on YouTube. He's Excel on Fire. Let's put him up on the screen. He says that's too big and too vague and reveals the person doesn't really understand what they're getting into. Yeah, so I certainly agree. I think it's really important for people to have that goal, and that way it's concrete and we all know what we're shooting for, and I can think about what it takes to get you from where you are to that goal. But to try to get someone to, people say, well, get me into a UX job. Right now, most jobs want a year of real work experience. I can't give you that. I can teach you some things that you're missing. I can strengthen some things that you're weak in, but I can't solve everything out there right now. Bill, I see you followed up finally, so let me answer this question and then we'll get back to Bill. And thank you, Bill. So how do I choose, which research methods will I choose for my project? Again, since I am normally swimming in the waters of qualitative research, that means if it's generative, I'm going to be usually looking at an observational study with interviews, or sometimes interviews alone if the observational thing doesn't work right now, like because of the pandemic. If it is evaluative, I might be doing some moderated or unmoderated usability testing. If it's information architecture, this could be moderated or unmoderated card sort. So typically, I think once I've killed all the quantitative stuff, because again, I can do quant, but I'm rarely doing it. Once I'm looking just at qualitative methods, I am looking at which one is going to give me the most and best information. And what I find time after time is that is observing people. Interviewing is nice, it's my second choice, but there's always differences between what people say and what people do. And of course, we know that from the Nielsen Norman Group article on the first rule of design. Don't listen to what people say, watch them do things. So number one, observations wherever you can do them. And that's why moderated usability testing can be so powerful, because we're watching people do things and we have the opportunity to ask them later about that. And unmoderated can be okay because we're still watching them through a video, but being there and asking a follow-up question can be even more powerful. So I think once you're down to qualitative methods, then you're looking for the ones that give you the best information. So again, I'm less hot on things like diary studies, even though I'm doing one right now, because again, what people say about what they do and what they do is very often different. They're missing steps, they're missing pieces, they're missing workarounds, and we'd be more likely to see them if we're observing. So I'll kill that answer there. It's a long one. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have a follow-up question. Virginia says, NN Group have a great free guideline about what research method is best for specific objectives. Okay, you can check that out. And we finally have the follow-up from Bill. So let me write this down. Continuing Bill's question. Bill says, we agree on features based on the needs of the user in a SaaS platform. We've interviewed those users. We have a solid pathway towards UX and UI. So yes, we would then bring in tech early to solicit feedback from a tech side. The notion is that once a story or epic gets into grooming, that we have agreed upon direction for that feature. Am I on track with regards to grooming stories and have design frozen, aka no more changes? Again, I can tell you my dream thing for this, but I've never had it happen at any company. So, if you can make it work, great. In general, every company I've ever worked at has tried to overrule UX. So just when I think that I've got my design or it's frozen and it's tested and it's whatever, somebody else says, well, I don't like it. Somebody else says, let's change what stories we're working on. So, I guess I feel like a frozen design is temporarily frozen. I guess I can't. I'm not really sure what you're asking me. Are you asking me that by the time you're grooming stories and picking which stories this feature is going to have, that the design is frozen? Well, that doesn't sound right. You haven't done the design yet if you're still figuring out which stories are going to be in your sprints. So, Bill, I don't get it. I got to admit, I am not sure what you're asking me, because the way that I've always worked is we've started with requirements and or stories. The stories and the features are prioritized very often by a product manager. I wish they were collaborating with UX on that, but they don't always. Someone then says, for these sprints, here's what we're working on. And so we'll work on it, and then we have to get it to engineering, X sprints later. And normally my design has never been frozen because everybody overrules me after I've done it. So yes, I would imagine that once product and hopefully UX are deciding on your stories, which stories you're going to work on, that you have an agreed upon direction. But I always thought of that as a primarily product manager job, hopefully with UX as collaborator, to agree upon the stories that we're doing, in what order, which ones must be combined together for the features, and their prioritization. So I feel like there's just this grand canyon between when you're talking about stories and the feature, and then freezing the design, because there's a huge amount of work between those two. So I still got to admit, I'm not sure what you're asking me. I'm so sorry. If this is clear to everybody else, can everyone in the chat room clear this up for me? And maybe I'm having a partly cloudy day, but I don't understand. I feel like there's so much missing here. There's so much happening between the stories being decided on and the direction of the feature being decided on, and then design being completed and frozen. That could be days, that could be weeks. I don't get it. Question from Fisayo while we wait for Bill. And again, I'm always sorry if I'm pronouncing people's names badly. I don't know how to pronounce everybody's names. I'm making my best guess. Fisayo says, how do you proceed when what users say does not match what they do? You've got to do the research that watches what they do. You can't just, and I see there are some anonymous questions here, so I promise, I see those were sent about 6 minutes ago. I promise those will be next. You can't just say, well, we don't know we don't think people are saying, we don't think what people say matches what we do, so we'll just guess. So yeah, you would only know that what they're saying doesn't match what they're doing if you're doing good observational research and you've watched them and you know it doesn't match. So if you can do the observational research, I will normally I might mention in a report, the person said this, but then during the observational research, we actually watched them do this, and what they said didn't match. It can sometimes be good to point that out just for our other teammates who, again, might still be stuck in the world of ask users what they want and ask users what they do. And it might be important for us to point out, here's an example of where what somebody said they did and what they actually did didn't match up. And that's why good observational research is so important. When the way that I proceed is I would absolutely give more importance to what they did over what they said, 100% of the time. That's the way that I would go with that. Just checking these anonymous questions. I promise you are all in the queue. All right, hold on. And we'll still wait for more information from Bill, or maybe Bill, a private call with you and me, so we can actually talk like people, just grab some time with me. Okay. Ekening says, what makes, I think this is Ekening's question. Let's put it up. What makes a strong intermediate UX designer? So I'd say by the time you are in intermediate land, which is usually 2 to 4 years of experience, I would say by now you certainly need a lot less coaching. You might still have some work reviews from a senior or lead or manager, but you don't need as many because you are a lot more independent. You are probably starting to be a little bit more strategic. You are probably starting to be able to look at a project and go, oh, we should probably do this type of research and it'll probably take this amount of time and I'm also going to need this tool. To me, that's where we start to be strategic at a project level, not the department strategy or the company strategy, but the strategy of the project. How are we best going to do what's needed here? What are we going to have to possibly give up or compromise on? And what is a deal breaker when we have to do it? So I think mid-level people or intermediate people start to be better at that because they've had a few years of experience and they've seen where it pays off to give a little bit and where it does not pay off to skimp on something. They're probably also starting to get better at time management and time estimation. So again, strategically, you can say, I think this is going to take that long and this is what I'm going to need to do it. And then other than that, just seeing your work improve and getting stronger. And typically, again, you'll know that you're getting stronger when a manager or leader says, hey, I don't have to review your work as much. Hey, I used to review your work twice a week. Now I'll review your work once a week, every other week. I think that's a real symbol of someone saying, you're getting better and you can do more of this yourself and I'm just going to hover a little bit less. But other than that, I would have to look at somebody's work to be able to say, here's where I think they are in terms of experience or strength. That's something I would have to see. It's a little bit hard to describe, but hopefully that helps a little bit. And Peaches is here. Yay! Peaches, have you been? I still feel like I don't really know you. Won't you please contact me on LinkedIn? We've got a few questions before you, Peaches, so please hold on tight. And of course, just a reminder to everybody, please subscribe on YouTube. It's so much better than LinkedIn if you're allowed to use YouTube on your phone or your computer. Empathize with the like button if you're on YouTube. Give this a like and let the algorithm know it was pretty good. You can also join our Slack workspace, which is completely free, deltacx.link/join Slack. And we now, of course, have the tip jar, which is optional, deltacx.link/tip. All donations will go towards my newer, faster computer that I plan to buy in the next few weeks that hopefully won't crash in the middle of streams. Ta-da! Can you believe I bought a gaming laptop and it sometimes crashes in streams? Weird. Oh, good. Thanks, Ikening. I'm glad that helped. All right, let's take a look at our next question. I've started working at a new job where there are a lot of research review guidelines and privacy reviews to undertake before I actually start recruitment or start speaking with users. I feel like I'm doing more planning than actual research, and designers and engineers go off ahead and start executing because they can't wait for my findings. How would you suggest dealing with this, or any suggestions for speeding up research? Now, the funny part here is you're not really talking about speeding up research, you're really talking about speeding up recruitment. And I know that recruitment is a nightmare, and I can only say that I hope to have something in the summer that will help you. For now, I don't have something that will help you, but I hope I will. But I would say we have to look at how to make the recruitment be more efficient, because chances are it's not the actual research that is going so badly, it's a lot of this recruitment. And I know from the projects I've been on that recruitment can be a nightmare that takes weeks and weeks and weeks. One thing I think you can do is staff up a little bit more around this. See if you can have a research assistant or a junior researcher or a research coordinator who might be able to help you. Even if it's like a temporary freelancer, bring somebody in to help you with this, because that's where your bottleneck is. It doesn't sound like from your question that your bottleneck is the research, even though you're asking me how to speed up research. It sounds like your bottleneck is the recruiter. So also it sounds like you need to There's a lot of process that has to happen in place, and it also sounds like people are just starting to build stuff without treating you as a collaborator and as a valued member of the team. So that sounds like managerial intervention time. It's very important, if you are there to do this research, to keep people from guessing. You're calling it executing, but I'm going to call it guessing. But it's very important. The research is, again, there's no substitute for it. So I would talk to managers and I would say, what can we do to pre-vet? Can we start collecting our own pool or panel of people who are pre-vetted, that they've gone through the privacy review, that they've passed our guidelines, that they've signed our consent form, and they are ready to go the next time I need to research with certain populations. So I would say proactively build your panel and your pool internally, so that you can get these people kind of pre-onboarded or vetted or whatever it might be. And that way, when someone comes to you with an ask and says, we need you to talk to 15 of our trial customers, you might say, great, I've got trial customers ready for action. So I think that we're just going to have to look at ways to try to kill some of that recruiting bottleneck. I hope to have something for you in the summer. But until then, I would say see if you can staff up on it and see if you can prepare by trying to have a pool or panel that's kind of in your pocket for what you might know to be some of the most common research asks or populations you tend to get. I hope that helps. And let's see, I see some more questions coming in. I am not forgetting you. I am just still getting there. And we also have Peaches on the list. So I promise I'm going to get to everybody before we are all done for the day, which should be in about 15 minutes, because I have a phone call when? Who remembers when? Oh, 8:30. Okay, I can run a little bit late if we need to. All right, so let's get back to questions. You're welcome, Ekening. All right, so our next question was, when do you know that it's hopeless, UX really isn't considered, and it's time to quit and move on? When you've asked that question. I know that seemed a little bit waka, but I would say, you know it. You know it. You don't need to ask me that. You know it. That's like saying, Deb, can you please give me permission to leave the crappy job I'm at? I give you permission. If it's a bad economy and a pandemic and it's hard for you to find a new job, then maybe you're staying here until you have another one to go to and you're going to play it safe. If you have a little bit of savings and you don't have to play it safe, maybe you're quitting because this is just destroying your soul. But I think once you're asking a question like, can you please give me permission to quit my job? I give it to you. As for how do you know when it's hopeless and UX isn't being considered? I think we all know that. Is there anybody in the chat room who hasn't been able to tell whether or not their coworkers or cross-functional team was considering UX or not? Has anyone ever been unclear on that? Gee, I can't tell if they value UX or not. I'm not sure. I think we're sure. I think we don't want to admit it. I think we don't want to say it out loud, but I think we're sure. So I would say when you know that, and if you've talked to your manager and you can't improve it, then aggressively apply to jobs and stay at this one if you need to and quit this one if you don't need to. That's my answer there. I hope that helps. I always hope it helps, and I tend to say that. And finally, Peaches. I want to know who Peaches is. This is like a year now. Hi, Debbie. What does the ideal partnership between a UX designer and a UX researcher look like to you? Hooray. Great question. Let's put it up. So to me, first of all, there's going to be some boundaries. If you really do have a specialist researcher and you have a specialist, what I call architect, which is going to be more of your information architect, interaction designer type of person, then first of all, we've got boundaries. You know, who is doing what? And I think it's important for those two people to talk, just in case the researcher sometimes likes to make a wireframe or the architect likes to, talk to customers or something like that. Oh no, we just got a super chat. Say what? It came up on my screen. Here it is. Ralitza, thank you so much. Too nice. Thank you. She says she's donating to my shampoo and conditioner, which she recommended I use. So my hair's beauty is thanks to Ralitza. But Ralitza, I'm now saving up for a better streaming computer. So thank you. It'll go towards that. That is very, very sweet. And she says, for your next lush treat. Okay, I just ordered it. It's on its way. It's coming tomorrow, evidently. I think step one, create boundaries or create roles and decide where one person begins and the other ends. Number two, you've got to align on what's the goals, what's missing, what does each person need to do. So is the researcher, excuse me, I think I've been talking for 10 hours today. Woo! And how many more? Might have to switch to chugging chloroseptic, everybody. Thank you, British chloroseptic. So what are we looking to learn? Is this generative research where we need to understand more about our customers before some architecture can be done? Or has some architecture been done, hopefully informed by research, and now we need to test it? And is that testing done by the research team? Some teams I've been on have done that. I'm not allowed to do any research or testing because I am the architect. So I think it's really about making sure that everybody knows what their playground is and talking about what the needs and goals are. Start with needs and goals. What do we need to know? What don't we know? What are we missing? And I believe you don't have to have a hypothesis. That's just me. A lot of people say have a hypothesis, but I feel like as soon as we do, we've put ourselves in a box or we've biased ourselves a little bit. So to me, the ideal partnership is I think that researchers have to be dedicated to architects, almost like assigned or embedded. Researchers have to be have a limited number of projects they're working on. I remember when I had a job many years ago and I couldn't do research and I had to wait for the research team. Very often I would say, hey, we have a concept and we want to test it. And they would go, yeah, we think we can do that in about 3 weeks. And then we'll get you a report 2 weeks later. No can do. So we have to make sure that whatever the researcher is doing is going to fit into all the timelines, which means lots more planning ahead. We can't just surprise the researcher and be like, surprise. We need to make sure we're planning ahead so that that researcher can plan for that time. And we won't be surprised later when they shouldn't need 5 weeks to get us stuff. That doesn't work. No workplace wants that, and that's part of why they start hating us and thinking that we're bloated and too slow. And I know from our previous question, it's sometimes not our fault. The recruiting was messy and stuff was bizarre. But I think that there are certainly ways that we can try to improve that. Peaches, I know this isn't the best answer I could have given. I think I'm starting to run out of energy a little bit, but I hope I've at least given you the starts of some ideas. And, you can always contact me privately and I'll try to say something when I'm more clever in the morning. So let's see. We still have a few more questions and I'm running low on time, and I see Plexus is also here. Hello, Plexus. So let's see. We had an anonymous question come in, and then we have Fizayo's question, and then we have Plexus. So that might have to be it for today, but I will do my best to get everybody in. If your question was not answered today, you can certainly ask it during the week at deltacx.link/AMA or deltacx.link/ask, our new system. And don't forget to join us in all the places you can possibly join us. And then we do this every Tuesday. So if I miss your question today, it will be answered next Tuesday. Thank you, Peaches. I'm starting to feel a little sleepy, so I apologize. Okay, so we got an anonymous question, and it is interesting. It says, I have volunteered to redo the website for a nonprofit. It's a local chapter for infant death, stillbirth, and pregnancy loss grief support. It's a very sad, hard to talk about topic. So far, my approach to research has been to ask previous lost parents through an online open answer form about what resources they needed or wish they had or were really grateful for when their baby died. I then plan to organize that information in a meaningful way. Is there something I'm missing? Is that the correct approach to research for this project? Okay. Good luck with that project. And of course, that's a very serious matter, and it's a good question. Certainly, when things are extremely personal, we sometimes feel like, I don't want to interview people or speak to them. It might be too difficult for them. You might be worried about your own reaction. You might think, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold it together during this interview. This is just too sad. Sending people a form and getting an open answer is something. It's not nothing. I think it's okay. Obviously, if you can feel like you can do some interviews, then that can be even more helpful. But again, obviously, it's a very difficult topic, and you might need to find people for whom the loss is more in the past and not as fresh, even though I'm sure in this case it never goes away. So I think that if you can do interviews. Of course, please work with a mentor or coach if you're new to this, to make sure you are asking extremely sensitive questions and you have the right tone for this. And then also make sure you understand what's going to also serve the client. If you're redoing their website, it sounds like you want to learn what their potential website users need or why they're coming there. So maybe there's a way to interview some of the people who do go to this website and learn what made them come there or become involved in it, what other resources they've used, if there are certain books they read or discussion forums or Facebook groups they're a part of. Sometimes it just helps to learn a little bit about people's habits. I know this topic is extremely sensitive, so again, if you're new to this, please work with a mentor or coach to make sure they're helping you ask the right things in the right ways. This is very sensitive. So I would say what you're doing is okay, but it's missing some of the human interaction that an interview could bring. You can also you can try to do something observational where people share their screen and they show you how they use the site. But again, given that this is a sensitive topic, people may or may not want to say, yes, I go to the site and I look up this thing or I post to this forum. So I know it's tough, but hopefully I've given you a couple of ideas and see again if you can work with a mentor or coach who can give you some guidance, especially with anyone who might have experience researching maybe in healthcare, where these types of topics or difficult topics are a little bit more commonplace and they've dealt with that before. I have done less of that, admittedly. Okay, thank you. And thank you for sharing that with us. And good luck. Keep us posted on it. Let's see. Fisayo says, how much can instinct be allowed to guide a project? I'm working on a side project where the product owner feels UX research will be a waste of time because he keeps saying he already knows the industry very much and how the users think. I don't want to argue for fear of feeling like an antagonist. Should I just go with the flow and wait for the project to crash before reminding them of the need to go back to UX research? Okay, so always remember that the real role of UX and CX is to be a critical thinker, a change agent. Who's got their critical thinking hats today, everybody? There's 3 of these on eBay, by the way, in case you want your own. Get your critical thinking hat on. And Fisayo, I would say that we've all had clients like that. We know that they don't want to listen to us. They claim to want what we can do, and then they don't want what we can do. Sometimes I walk away from those clients. If you don't want what I can do, you don't want what I can do, and you're going to end up resenting me. So remember, you also run the risk that if you did the research and you tell this person something that goes against what they think they know, they just resent you. I've been fired when somebody really didn't want to hear something I had to say. That doesn't stop me. So remember, don't be afraid of being an antagonist. And I know some of this might be cultural. I grew up in New York. New Yorkers don't have too much fear. And people who grew up in other places work with people differently than New Yorkers. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for the $1. Thank you so much. Every little bit helps, and that is very much appreciated. That could go to the Cheese Fund. Thank you so much. Little Bum Gorf. I don't know what that is or who you are, but thank you. That's very, very sweet for the super chat. Thank you. Don't be afraid of being an antagonist, because remember, you're not an antagonist. You are hopefully the voice of truth. Don't be afraid to be the voice of truth. Oh, it's Kayleen. Thank you, Kayleen. You're so sweet. You didn't have to do that. Very sweet of you. Thank you. I'll try to remember next time. It's your alter ego. Fizio, you're not an antagonist. Remember, an antagonist is what someone calls you when they don't want to hear what you have to say. To me, you are hopefully the voice of truth. To me, you are hopefully a strong CX and UX practitioner who's saying things to these people that they need to hear. So normally when I have something like this and I'm not going to quit it or walk away, I will start documenting risk. So I will say to that guy, I recognize that you don't want to research because you feel confident of the information you have, and I recognize that you don't want me to research just to make sure that your information is not outdated. It's the cleaner way of saying wrong. Nobody wants to be wrong, but I can say, I wonder if your information is outdated. Shouldn't we check? If they say, no, I'm great, well, then, you just document it. Say, well, here's what happens. I'm going to just document this. Here's what happens if we don't do the research that I'm suggesting, and we find out later that your information or knowledge was outdated. These are the risks we could run. Well, we might build the wrong thing. We might alienate customers. We might waste time and money. We might have to have customer support handling more problems for people. We might face bad reviews. People were unhappy that we didn't solve their problem. I would document it and give that person documents. Say, if you want to skip the research, we can. I just want to make sure you're aware of the risks. And that way, when we look at this project later, if for some reason this project is a failure, and make sure you have success criteria and failure criteria. If we realize that this project was a failure, then perhaps we can circle back and do that research, and perhaps we will have learned that we can't not do the research. So I hope that helps. Let's take another look at some of the last questions since we are out of time. But again, I would say don't say it's instinct to guide the project. This is not about instinct. This is about doing correct research so that we're not going with anybody's instinct. We're not going with yours. We're not going with the product owners. So that's the way that I would do it. But, you can always message me on LinkedIn or find me in the Slack channel. I think you recently joined if you need more help with that. Finally, we have, oh my gosh, Shannon. Shannon is super chatting me again. Oh my gosh, Shannon, stop it. Did everyone see Shannon live on our show yesterday? Go back and watch that in the live stream podcast episode. She says, thank you for doing these for free. These AMAs are always helpful, and $10 for your computer. Thank you. That is so sweet. Did that come up on the screen? Let me see. I think if I press this, there it goes. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. Last question is from Plexus, our good friend Brett. So let's see what he says. Do you know of any companies that I can put it up on the screen because he's on YouTube, and the YouTube stuff I can put on the screen, the LinkedIn I can't. Do you know of any companies that have very high organization UX maturity? Anywhere CX, UX essentially directs everything the company does, business strategy, design, and dev. That is a wonderful question. I would have to say so far I have very rarely seen that. And when I have seen that, it is in agencies. I have not yet seen a corporation or division of a corporation where UX and customer centricity were truly prized. I think we are still riding that wave of everything has to be fake agile, and we have to do what engineering says, and whatever engineering says we're doing is what we're doing, and that will of course provide value to the customer because we engineered it well. So no, I would, does anyone in the chat room? Shannon says Amazon. Is Amazon high UX maturity? That's a good question. I would say I would say maybe some divisions might be, but based on some of the things I've seen and heard, some divisions aren't. Russell's here. Oh my God, Russell's here. Honey, Russell, what are you doing here? And how long have you been here? Russell's one of my best friends. We don't talk enough. I miss you, Scarecrow. Oh, Russell, now I'm gonna cry. How have you been? Best friends in real life. Like, he's got nothing to do with UX. He is a radio host in Canada. So if you listen to CBC Daybreak Alberta on the weekends, you are listening to Russell. Just arrived. Oh, well, I usually finish 3 minutes ago, so you are a little late. This is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, and I've been taking questions for the last hour, and my voice shows it. We are up to our question from our friend Plexus, also known as Brett. Who was asking about this. And anybody in the chat room, can you think of a company or a division that you think is really CX and UX driven? Shannon says Amazon cares more about customer satisfaction than employees and third-party sellers. I don't know. I have heard some uncool things about Amazon and third-party sellers. Yeah, they don't care about them as much. Yes, Russell, I do this every Tuesday. So Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Italy time. I think you're -8 from me, so 10:30 in the morning for you. Can anybody think of a company that is really CX centered? Sorry for the awkward silence, but I am not too sure. Is Bill still here? Bill works everywhere. He would know. I notice nobody is volunteering. Well, Virgifus, is that how you say that? It says Apple. I think Apple claims to be, but I'm not convinced that they are. But, I'm not an Apple fan. And Fisayo, I appreciate you too. Thank you. See you in Slack. Well, when I do some of my conference talks, I remind people that the fact that we can't come up with an answer is really a great symptom of the problem. I say in my conference talks, like, think about your favorite product. You can't live without it. It's like they read your mind and built it for you. And oh my gosh, it solves all your problems and it makes your task so efficient and it's so amazing. Have you thought of one? No? Well, guess what? Your customers aren't thinking of you either for that list. Ralitza says, I haven't worked for such a place. Yeah, I was secretly thinking of you. I was like, Ralitza's worked in some pretty famous places, and she's not saying anything right now. Peaches is sweating. Shannon says, that's a tough question. We all want to work for the utopian company. Yeah, I mean, I've only seen this in agencies, and I've been at some agencies where this wasn't happening. So I don't know. And Plexus says, he's saying, if we apply research best practices on this question of UX-centric, perhaps we need to acknowledge that UX is not a high corporate priority, and we need to train UXers to manage that. Yeah, I think that instead of managing that, many of us have wanted to fight that. Plexus says maybe we shouldn't get our hopes so high. Well, you and I have been talking about that for what, 2 years now, 3 years? And we don't always agree on that. I think that while it can sometimes feel a little bit hopeless, I still think that we need to fight for this. And I take as a positive sign the pact or claim about 2 years ago from the companies who claimed they were going to focus more on customer value and less on shareholder value. Obviously, in the pandemic, I think some of that fell apart since nobody had any money to do anything with. But I still think things are going to turn around. And the more I see people speaking out against design thinking, the more I see people asking me, how do I use design thinking, now I want to get away from it and teach people about user-centered design. I think there is going to be a shift. And when I see companies moving the goalposts and saying, you can't get an entry-level job here until you have a year of work experience. Now, that's shitty for them to move the goalposts to something that's a paradox and seems impossible, but it tells me someone there knows that it doesn't make sense to have newbies guessing at the UX, that maybe this is important, maybe it's even mission critical. And I know when we show up at those companies, they still act like they don't get UX, but I think there's still that little glimmer. There's that little glimmer that makes me feel like it is going to turn around in the next year or two. I'm going to be fighting it a lot harder this year with my training for HR and recruiters to stop making us crappy, impossible jobs, and hopefully late in the year with a new spin on Agile. Let's see. I forgot to tell everybody that Russell is a comedian and a comic writer. Russell says, Kmart is UX focused, but mainly on blue light specials. Their toy department UX is an omni shambles. Thank you, Russell. This reminds me of the days when you used to do your show and I would show up on Skype and write you jokes. Now you get to write me jokes. Ralitza says, I think looking at C-suite and checking if any UXers are there is a good indication of support for UX. Shannon says, we need UXers in the C-suite. So that's what's supposed to happen organizationally. We're supposed to have, and of course many places aren't doing this yet, but UX or CX is supposed to have its own branch of the organization answering up to the chief experience officer. And that doesn't just mean the person who's looking over the customer support team. We wouldn't need customer support so much if we made better products. So, Russell, we should have you on the show. We should do one of our shows. We should ask Russell these questions and he'll give the fake comedy answer and I'll give the real answer. So I do think that having more real CX and UX people in management, in leadership, in the C-suite is going to be important. And I think we need to call out lip service and bull and bad ethics and customer value that isn't really customer value. And I'm going to be pushing that really hard this year. Russell says he will come on the show. All right, we'll have to plan that. Plexus says, C-suiters are not the best for determining UX maturity. These people have other motivations that have nothing to do with UX. Yes, but if we could get, like, imagine you on the C-suite. Imagine me in the C-suite. Imagine Darren or Dr. Nick in a company's C-suite as a chief experience officer. I think that could be powerful and meaningful. What do I like to say? Meaningful, actionable, helpful. So I'm running really late. I've got some calls coming up and my Surface Pro that I run the show off of just told me the battery's dying. So I'm going to have to run. Thanks to everybody. Plexus, great question, great conversation. I wish you didn't ask it when we're almost done. And now I don't even have time to, let me take 1 minute and quickly remind everybody what is coming up on the show so that you can please mark your calendars. Tomorrow, we're very excited. Now remember, everything's always 6:30 Italy time. Tomorrow we go live with Chad, who's going to be very honest about his experience at a UX bootcamp, which I'm under the impression was more negative than positive. Monday, February 1st is Ask Amy Santee Anything. She's a UX researcher, so come bring your research questions. Tuesday, February 2nd, of course, every Tuesday is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, so I'll be back doing more of this. Wednesday, February 3rd, we will have UX recruiter Nick Grantham on, who's going to talk about some tips for UX, especially from the perspective of a recruiter. Monday, February 8th, I will be premiering my apprenticeship model, that I hope people will steal and use and improve upon. Tuesday the 9th, Office Hours, Ask Me Anything. Have a great day, Ralitza. Good to see you. Thank you again for the donation. Peaches is clapping. Peaches, you've got to come here earlier. Wednesday the 10th is going to be our first video live networking with our Slack workspace. So if you are not part of the Slack workspace, please join. And this will be for us to network with each other and get to know each other better. Monday, February 15th, we were going to have Sean McSharry on to talk about UX and autism. Tuesday the 16th, Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Wednesday the 17th, Darren Hood is back. Doot. And we're going to talk about holding UX accountable. We think that is part of what is going to be needed to create some of the shift we've been talking about here today. Monday, February 22 is Dimitris is going to be talking about data-driven driven versus data informed. He's got a neat UX Matters article on that. Tuesday the 23rd, office hours, ask me anything. Wednesday the 24th, I'm going to do some of the comedy slides from the HR training program that I'm writing. I've collected some of the worst UX job descriptions I've seen out there, and we are going to make fun of them, laugh at them, and blow off some steam. And then also set your clocks for Wednesday, March 3rd. I know you're like, March, Deb, I can't even think that far out. Yes, you can, because Seth Finkel is going to be back. Dr. Seth is going to be back, our favorite psychologist, and he's going to be talking about self-advocacy versus being a people pleaser, which was a question that came up here at one point, and we're turning it into a show. So, on that note, won't you please subscribe here on the YouTube channel, usability test that bell, make sure it's working, empathize with the like button, give it a tap, let the algorithm know that this was pretty good. Of course, join the Slack workspace at deltacx.link/join Slack, and optional tip jar, deltacx.link/tip. That's available 24 hours a day with my gratitude. And again, thanks to everybody who donated today. I would say how well we did in the donations, but my computer just shut itself off. So I think we did well. I mean, I'm happy to do this for free. Your donations are much appreciated. And like I said, I'm now going to put them towards an official streaming computer, so I never have a crash or a warning about CPU usage that none of you can see on the bottom of my screen ever again. I'm going to play us out of here, but thanks, and I hope to see some of you tomorrow for our next adventures. And now I'm looking for all the right buttons to press. And everybody be well, stay home, wear masks, play it safe, and I will catch you soon. Thanks again. Delta CX, available for CX and UX consulting, projects, and training. Contact us for a free consultation.